Hello everybody. My name is GJ Farmer, and thanks for joining us on this first ever webinar at childrensministryblog.com. I've asked Keith Coast to join us today to talk a little bit about creativity. I had this guy out at my church not too long ago. Got him coming again here soon. And I know that he is a very creative guy and has lots of ideas. You might have seen him in Kids Matter magazine. You might have had him at your church, or just maybe you've heard of him. I'm going to give him just a second to kind of introduce himself and tell you guys a little bit about his ministry. And in the meantime, you guys might notice underneath the webinar window there, we have a chat going. If you don't mind, just introduce yourselves to each other. Let each other know kind of what church you're from, where you live, those kind of things, and so that way we can kind of find out who all is joining us today. And what we will do, we will spend about 30 minutes talking on creativity, and then after that we'll do a little Q&A if anybody has any questions they'd like for Keith to answer. So this time I'll turn it over to him for a few minutes, let him kind of introduce himself and his ministry to you guys.
Hey guys, Keith Coast here. Really excited to be doing this with GJ. I mean, ever since we've met and connected, this has been cool. So when we talked about doing this, I'm excited. I'm seeing lots of people signing in, people I know, people I don't know. So this is really cool. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Keith Coast, and I've been doing traveling children's ministry for just about 13 years now. So basically, I travel all over the world. My ministry's been in, I don't know, I've lost count now, 9 different countries, 45 states, whatever, something like that. But I work with children's ministries, family ministries that just want good, clean family entertainment, and I also do, creative teaching and that sort of thing. So, but before I started doing traveling children's ministry, I was a children's pastor and a youth pastor for about 5 years on staff at different churches around Oklahoma and Texas. And then God called us into this. So I've been doing this now for the last, like I said, 13 years. And it's been an amazing adventure. I would have never, ever, ever thought that this is where I would be 13 years ago when I felt God calling me to resign my position as a children's pastor and to go into traveling ministry. So I'm just really excited to be here with all you guys today. So,
well, cool. Yeah, if you've ever had Keith out at your church, you know that he puts on a great show, and one of the pluses is you get this nice autographed picture, and I've kept mine for like a year. I'm waiting on, I figure if I keep it for 20 or 30, it will be worth even more on eBay. So if you do that, you might even make money on having him come out to your church. So
yeah, and those things change like every year. So that's the old one. GJ.
Well, it's a collector's item now.
Yeah, I'll have to get you new one. So it's a limited edition. I only print so many up. My mom makes those in her garage. So it's all good. It's all good.
Nice. Well, getting on our subject of creativity today, let's kind of talk just a second. I know that you obviously are a very creative guy. You're always having to tweak your shows and come up with new ideas on things. What are some ways that you kind of brainstorm creative ideas or help yourself come up with those things?
Okay. Brainstorming, or are we talking about like generating creative ideas?
Well, yeah, either one. I mean, how do you generate those ideas?
Okay, first off, I want to say this, and this is something that I tell people whenever I do workshops or teaching or whatever, or just encouraging other people. I was reading a book on creativity, and do not ask me the name of the book. I don't remember. I have a horrible memory when it comes to that kind of stuff. But there's actually been scientific studies done between creative people and non-creative people. And what they discovered is that there is no difference between the way a creative person's brain works and a non-creative person's brain works. To say this, that the only thing that makes a person creative is they believe that they're creative. And so, I mean, there is no difference. And so I believe truly in what I tell people. I believe that our Creator created His creation to be creative. And I truly believe that it's our creativity that makes this world a better place, in every area. So I think the number one thing to really, make sure that you understand what creativity is all about is that understanding that God created you to be creative, you know. And I think that is the number one most important thing. I think as far as, coming up with ideas, I think, the most important thing for me is capturing my ideas. Of course, I did a horrible job. I had to rush out of the house. I was planning on doing this at my home, and we're having issues with our Wi-Fi today, so I had all my visuals. I didn't actually bring. But I'm a big fan of notebooks. I love Moleskine. I know they're pricey, but whatever. But any kind of notebooks. I always write stuff down. You've got to have a way to capture those mediums. I use a lot of notebooks. I use Post-it notes. Probably, the most useful tool I've had as of late is my phone. I'm a big iPhone user. For those of you that are Android and stuff, Jesus still loves you, and there's room at the cross for you. But I believe that this has really changed a lot of how I do the creative process, because not only does this allow me to, just like even my notes for today's webinar are on the notepad, but I also have Evernote for those of you that like Evernote. But a lot of times just snapping a picture, I mean, think about it, 10 years ago, snapping a picture and organizing it. I mean, yeah. Now you can do screenshots. Let's say you're reading an article somewhere, take a screenshot of that, and then you can make a folder and kind of post all those things together. So I think probably the most important thing is, number one, believing that you're creative. Number two, as you get ideas, you have to have a way to capture those ideas. I can't tell you how many ideas I have that I've never done anything with, but it's not the right time. And that's what you have to realize, is that sometimes you may have an idea now, and you may not need it for a couple years later. But what I'm seeing now, GJ, is the fact that I think because I guess I'm realized that I have really tried to foster and to feed that creativity, that a lot of times those creative thoughts that I have are not just for me. Like, they might be good for somebody else. Like, I might have an idea for you, and I have to be willing to be able to give you that idea. So I think the more you write down, the more you collect, the more you share, I truly believe the more you get. And I believe it's that inspiration that really kind of keeps things going. And I really think keeping your eyes open to what's around you. I mean, the culture you're in. I mean, the culture I'm in, I live in Southwest Oklahoma. Our culture is a bit different than those living in Brooklyn or, Darlington, South Carolina, or, Houston, Texas. I mean, it's you have to be relevant, but keep your eyes open there. But yeah, I think those are some ways that help me kind of brainstorm and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's, like for me, that's kind of one of the more difficult things as far as being creative is, sometimes you kind of get in a rut and you feel like you're not creative. And really it sounds like that is kind of the enemy of being creative, is thinking that you're not.
Absolutely. And I can't tell you how many people come to me like, wow, Keith, you're so creative. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's encouraging to hear that, but I'm like, you're just as creative. And I'll be honest with you, the most frustrating thing I have that I hear from people is when they say I'm not creative, because I believe that's a lie, and I believe it's a cop-out, and I believe that, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this webinar with you, is because I want to encourage people that they are creative, because I can't tell you how much, when I look sometimes at children's ministry, and I'm not saying as a whole or anything like that, but we get into this very consumer driven, like, I just want to, like, have everything done for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody wants it written out. It's like, it kind of takes the work out of it. And I kind of work on from the opposite perspective. It's just like, hey, let me give you an idea. I'll kind of give you some basic, elements to it, and then you go with it. That's kind of how, was it 2 or 3 years? I can't remember now. It kind of all run together. But I wrote for Kids Matter magazine, which is, well, it was K magazine, and now it's Kids Matter. But
Right.
When I would write the object lessons and stuff for that, it was kind of like, here's a cool effect, here's a verse to go with it, and this is kind of the point you're trying to make. But I never like wrote everything out word for word. It's kind of like you need to adapt that to your group, as you see needed. So.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I know, it's almost 2:15 now, so we'll try to press on in some of these other areas. As we go through our time together, guys who are watching, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, go ahead and leave that in the chat, and then once we get to about 2:30, something like that, we will start answering those questions. But the next thing I was kind of wondering, I know, like you had mentioned, object lessons and stuff that you'd had in Kids Matter magazine. I've seen a lot of what you do is very object kind of oriented when you teach. And so what are some of the ways that you kind of brainstorm those things or come up with those object lessons?
Well, now you're asking for the secret weapon, GJ. You're asking for how my brain works. No, hey, that's the one question I get all the time. And by the way, I got dropped out of the chat here. Hey, Pastor Jordan, a little shout out there, says he's in West Virginia, currently moving to Oklahoma this week. Awesome. That's really cool. Awesome. We'll have to talk about that here in a little bit. So, your question was, how do I?
Yeah, how do you? Yeah, your object lessons. How do you brainstorm those and come up with those?
All right. There's not an exact formula, but I'll tell you this. Usually, sometimes it'll start with, say, a verse or a scripture, and that inspires something like I'll have an illusion or an object that kind of goes with it, or I'll find an illusion or a balloon or some sort of an effect, and then I'll try to find a verse that goes with it. I'll give you 2 good examples. If you're familiar with illusion and magic and that sort of stuff, and GJ, I know you are, but this is the hand chopper trick, right? It's kind of a gory geek trick where basically you cut a carrot in half and you put someone's hand in there, and then it looks like they're going to cut their hand off, but it doesn't, right? Well, that is not a kid's trick. I mean, I would never just do that for a kid's trick, but one day I'm reading my Bible, and I'm reading the verse of Scripture where Jesus says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. And then I immediately began to think of the hand chopper trick. So I thought, hey, this could be cool. So I started thinking about, okay, how would I do this or whatever. So I did the trick, and it is a bit, I mean, I do a non-bloody, gory version or whatever, but afterwards I talk about how, it didn't cut off their hand, and I say, well, do you think Jesus was really saying that we need to cut off our hand? I mean, Jesus is using, kind of like extreme language. It's not literal, and so we get to explain this to the kids. Afterwards, I had a pastor say, he goes like, that was one of the best illustrations I've ever heard on that verse. So that's a really good example of a verse kind of inspiring, an illusion that I had seen in a catalog, and then it kind of worked together, The opposite way is that I started working with liquid nitrogen, and I love liquid nitrogen, but you're like, okay, this could be a really cool effect, but how do I use that? Also I have lasers that pop balloons. It's like a laser that pops balloons, that's fantastic, but how do we use that, And, the Lord has really given me some incredible insight with those. Jesus is the light of the world, and we don't have time to go into all the details on how that, but sometimes it happens with a scripture that I look around and I say, hey, that would work well, or this is a really cool thing, how can we use that? So it kind of works both ways.
So basically, you're just, all the time, thinking about what could I use for this, all the time looking for those opportunities.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, seriously, I do a lot of R&D. Wherever I'm at, I'm doing research and development. If I'm on YouTube, I mean, I can't tell you how people. I joke about it, but I learn a lot of stuff from 12-year-old kids, that should probably be better supervised by their parents, but it inspires an idea. I mean, that's where I got the whole laser thing. I found some 10-year-old kid playing with a laser and it was popping balloons, and I'm like, no way, I need one of those. So, so then it just kind of, goes from there. I'm always doing it, whether I'm at Hobby Lobby or I'm at a thrift store, which is a dangerous place for me. But I'm always getting stuff. If I have a topic or a theme that I'm going on, I'll just get on Google, and I like to do image searches. You got to be careful. I understand that. But if an image search for me does a lot of good because I'm a very visual person, and I think that's one of the reasons that I have done so well with object lessons, because really I'm kind of teaching for myself. Adam is asking about, what about sharks with lasers on their heads? Could I use that in children's ministry? Absolutely, you can. If you can figure out a way to use a shark with a laser on their head, I want to know about it. And I know that the Adam is in my town, so maybe we could work together on that one.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe a Shark Week object lesson there.
and another thing, guys, I think this is also too, is that realizing that I also have friends that, and I know there's several on here today. I'm seeing Taylor Hughes and some others, and GJ, I've bounced some ideas off you before. You've got that circle of friends, and I say, hey, I'm going along these lines. As a matter of fact, my buddy Taylor that's watching right now, he's out in California, and Taylor is an amazing illusionist, close up and on stage. And I know that if I need any kind of illusionary advice, he's one of the first guys I call because he knows it. But I don't call him if I have a question about a balloon or science. You know what I'm saying? I've got 2 or 3 guys that are got chemistry degrees or whatever. So, sometimes you get an idea, you might want to text or call and have people help you formulate those ideas. And guys, I'll be honest, I mean, my kids and my wife are some of my best panel of, whatever. I've got a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old. So I'm living at home with my, my focus group.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a group of people you can run all your ideas and thoughts by, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people who watch this are probably thinking, yeah, all that's great, and all that works for you and what you do, going around doing shows and stuff. But how, what are some ways that I can personally be creative and use creative ideas in my teaching, like week in and week out? And so thinking about that, can you give some of the viewers maybe some ideas, some easy things they can do to spice up their teaching and be more creative?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me say this too. I was a children's pastor, and when I was having to come up with 52 lessons a year, it's a lot different than what I'm coming up with now. You know what I'm saying? Because I can afford to spend more money, because I'm getting we're getting a lot of questions about lasers and where to get them and stuff like that. See, like those things, like when I first bought my first laser about 4 or 5 years ago, I mean, those things were like $400 to $500. As a children's pastor, I couldn't afford to spend that kind of money. A liquid nitrogen doer is going to cost you several $100s just for the container to put the liquid nitrogen in. So I'm not saying you don't need to think big and beyond, but when you are coming up with stuff week after week, this is something that I really want to encourage you. And here's a couple things. Number one, find something that you're excited about. Okay? I can't tell you how many people say, well, I don't like to do magic or illusions. I'm not good at that. Well, then don't do that. Find some, or maybe you're not into balloons. I know some people that cannot stand balloons. Well, then don't do balloons. All right. Maybe you're more into science, but whatever. Find something that you're excited about, because if you get excited about it, the kids are too. The other thing is, dig back to your childhood. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is what's really great, guys. We work in children's ministry, and every 3 to 4 every 3 to 4 years, we get a whole new batch of kids. These kids are only, they're very young, and so the things that you remember from 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, are brand new to these kids. They've never seen it before. Case in point, I've started shooting with Polaroid pictures again. I picked one up at a thrift store for $2. They still sell film for them. And let me tell you, I pull a Polaroid picture out and take a picture of a kid. It's like magic. It really is. They've never seen anything like that before. So, you don't have to dig back very far. The KISMIF principle, the KISMIF, keep it simple, make it fun. Keep it simple, make it fun. If you can do that, that is like the best thing. It doesn't have to be a magic trick or a balloon or a science thing or whatever. It's just a visual that you're doing. I mean, hey guys, my visuals in the very beginning, GJ, were, I do stuff with eggs or batteries. I remember one time, using a battery and talking about how God gives us power and that kind of thing. I mean, it's just use what's around you, and the more spectacular it is, if you can get it, fantastic, and then I would say probably the greatest thing you can do on a week-to-week basis is fire. If you can light anything on fire, kids will love you, and you'll be their hero. So
yeah, just check the smoke alarms and stuff first, your sprinkler system. Have you ever had anything happen like that before?
Oh yeah. Actually, now this was not my fault, but I was in Macon, Georgia this last week, and the hazers set off the fire alarm. However, I say it wasn't my fault. However, this summer I'm doing a library show at my hometown library, the one I grew up at, and it's kind of a special thing to me. And I'm doing my big vortex cannon. I'm shooting these smoke rings, and it was all great until the fire alarm went off, and we had to evacuate 300 kids out of the library. So yes, I've had those kind of things happen before, but it's totally worth it because it's a memorable experience, right?
Oh yeah, that's definitely something they'll never forget, I'm sure.
But yes, before you light something on fire,
Yeah, I was going to mention to everyone watching, we're almost ready for the Q&A portion, so go ahead and start sending a few questions, even if it's something that you might know the answer to, but maybe you think someone else might benefit from it. Just send those questions our way. We'll start answering those, or Keith will in just a second.
And can I say one more thing too, GJ? Because I think this is the most important thing. If you're in children's ministry, you need to be immersing yourself into the world of kids. I have a Minecraft t-shirt that I did this year, and I can't tell you how many adults said, "Man, I really like your Lego shirt." And I'm like, that's not Lego, that's Minecraft. And they're like, what's Minecraft? And then I started taking a poll, started asking children's pastors, like, how many of you seen the Lego movie? And they're like, oh, I haven't seen it yet. I mean, guys, if you haven't seen the Lego movie yet and you don't know what Minecraft is, either you need to start immersing yourself into kids' world, or, maybe you should be doing something else. You know what I'm saying? Because, if you're working with kids, you need to start understanding what they're doing. And I don't have cable television or satellite at home, but when I'm on the road, when I'm at the hotel, I turn on the Disney Channel, I turn on Nickelodeon, I turn on all these stupid shows that I don't watch personally, but I have to see
we know better.
What's that?
You said you don't watch them personally. I said, yeah, we know better.
Hey, man, I didn't see my first episode of Duck Dynasty until, last year. And I'm like, okay, I got to see what this is all about. And,
you didn't want to switch and go full beard when you saw that?
No. I did try to grow one last December, but whenever I grow a beard with this, I always have a buzzed head usually, and when I grow a full beard, I look like a terrorist. And because I fly a lot, it's probably not the best thing in the world.
Yeah. All right, so we're almost at 2:30 when we're going to start the Q&A. But before we get there, a couple of quick things. I wanted, if anybody wants to know more information about you and your ministry, how can they contact you?
Absolutely. My website, you obviously are familiar with the internet here. So keithcoast.com is a website. It's got all of my information, a little bit about me. I try to update that. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of updating, pictures, videos, information. Even right now, I try to do that, ever so often. So, but yeah, keithcoast.com is the best way to find that. I'm on Facebook. I've got a fan page, my name, Keith Coast. I post a lot on Facebook because that's where a lot of the adults are. I'm on Twitter, but it's just it just kind of retweets what I do off of Facebook. And I'm also on Instagram. That's a little more personal and kind of, I found out a lot of kids are on there. So that's where I do with the kids. But I also work with another ministry called For His Kids, and they take care of the administration part of what I do, and I'm also a network of other people that travel around just like me. So it's a really fantastic thing. So keithcoast.com and forhiskids.com are the two ways to really find out more about me, get in touch with me, and then of course social media. So.
Nice. And also, before we get to the Q&A, I want to do just a little plug here. On childrensministryblog.com, we try to, I blog pretty much on every weekday basis. Sometimes I don't quite make that, but most of the time my goal is to blog every weekday. And so if you want some more ideas on children's ministry or just some thoughts, different things, be sure to subscribe in the box next to, it's in the sidebar there on the website, and you can select how often you'd like updates. I'm always posting, always trying to generate new content for children's ministry leaders, so if that's something you're interested in, feel free to fill that out. All right, now as we get into the Q&A, I'm seeing a lot of questions coming in. Keep those coming. We will.
Can I say one more thing, GJ?
Sure.
Because this is all going with creativity and stuff, and so we might as well tell people about it. But in November 7th and 8th, the ministry that I work with For His Kids is actually doing a children's ministry retreat called Recharge, and it's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it's all based on creativity. So if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or in the Texas-Oklahoma area, or even if you want to fly in, it's all good. But it's going to be really great. A lot of people from For His Kids are going to be there, but we're focusing on creativity. So, that'd be a really great thing. So I'm just looking forward to now getting to all these questions, man. There's a lot of questions on here.
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll through. I think the first one I saw was from Kidman 266. I'm not sure who that is, but it says, how about an object lesson that you've done that makes a huge mess?
Are they asking for?
Yeah, I think they're wanting an example of a huge mess object lesson that you've done.
Oh my gosh. Well, first off, I hate messes. I really do. Because my thing is that number one, I don't want to lose a job, or you to lose your job because of a mess, or you know what I'm saying. So, but I always take precautions. Probably the messiest one I've done is the one I've done this summer. I went Gallagher and I was smashing watermelons with a huge wooden hammer, and we were smashing potatoes, bananas, apples. You would not believe how far you could smash a potato across a room, making mashed potatoes. But we did cantaloupes and watermelons, and that was pretty insane. But what was really great is I had some really great people at the camps that I work with that thought it was just as cool, and it had a really great message about worry and anxiety and that sort of thing. And we prepped everything with plastic and did it, and to be honest with you, I don't look forward to doing that for another 10 years at least, because
right.
I was sticky for a couple days.
Yeah, if you do that object lesson outside, you probably the folks would have maybe an overgrowth of watermelons or something the next year.
Yeah, but see, here's the deal. We talked about doing it outside, but it doesn't get that wow factor. Because if you're doing it outside, people are like, oh, you're smashing a watermelon outside. You do it inside, people are like, is he really about to smash that watermelon? So yeah, it was. That's probably the messiest one I've done. I try to stay away from the messes, you know, but that one definitely. So.
Nice. I'm scrolling down through here. What is your coolest fire object lesson?
Um, it's funny is like when I go through lessons, I didn't get 10 of them. But probably the coolest and most requested one is where I tell the story of Elijah on Mount Carmel, where he called fire down from heaven. And I tell the whole story, but at the very end, I climb up an 8-foot ladder and I make a big fireball on stage. It's the easiest way to do it. Some of you have probably heard of this, and some of you are like, no way. But I use coffee creamer. I use non-dairy coffee creamer, not like the half and half that comes in a carton, but the non-dairy coffee creamer. I know half of you right now are probably running towards your coffee place in your church. I see a whole couple bottles of it over here in my church. But you can just take a handful of coffee creamer, and then you pour it over one of those long lighters, and you just drop it in there, and you get this big fireball. It's amazing. I haven't really posted anything on YouTube about it or how to do it because I really don't want to teach kids how to do this. I don't even tell kids that it is coffee creamer. I tell them that it's a special pyrotechnic dust that I got at a special store. That's not lying. I mean, I'm just not going to tell them that I got coffee creamer at Walmart for $2.
Right.
But yeah, making a fireball out of coffee creamer, by far the easiest, cheapest thing I can do. Because I've done stuff with flash paper before, and I'm sure that a lot of you guys that have dealt with magic stuff or fire have too, but that stuff is getting harder and harder to use and fly with because of the security, tighten down and stuff like that at airports. So I don't even fly with it anymore. I just use coffee creamer, and I just go get a bottle of it. Usually I can find it in the church wherever I'm at. So.
Right. All right, how about this? This is a good question. What are some of the what are some of the websites where you get creativity from, like different sources?
Yeah, number one, YouTube. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but YouTube is the number one search engine behind Google. Is that right? I mean, and the thing is that, just, see what's trending, crazy videos and stuff like that. As far as object lessons go, I mean, I'm kind of making it up. I don't really tend to go towards children's ministry sites that are coming up with stuff. I'm kind of, coming up with stuff on my own. So YouTube is a huge source for me. I also love this site called Instructables. Instructables shows you how to build all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm really big into the maker movement. Me and my kids are. If you don't know what the maker stuff is, like there's Make Magazine. Adam Savage and some of those guys from Mythbusters are really fostering a lot of creativity with making stuff. Let's see what else. I can tell you right now, Joshua Denhart I believe he's out of Des Moines, Iowa, West Des Moines, Iowa. He's a children's pastor there, but he's got the new science curriculum VBS. That cat is creative. Josh Denhart, you guys can look him up. I believe his website is sciencevbs.com, something like that. Really good stuff. And yeah, somebody says, "What can't you learn from YouTube?" I know, right? I mean, it really it's just really I get a lot of ideas also from shows like America's Got Talent, circuses. When I go to the fair, I just there's not really one specific place that I get it from, So I don't know if that answered that question very good.
One of the resources that I have, it's not a website, it's this book called Thinker Toys, and it's a pretty cool book. Basically, I would consider it, even though it's not a very huge book, I would consider it to be a reference book. Basically, it has ideas and kind of I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of like um, ideas and ways on how you can generate creative ideas. And so basically the whole book is, hey, if you want to generate a creative idea just from scratch, come up with, brainstorm these 2 or 3 different things and then break these things down using these various methods. And so anyway, it's just a really cool book. It's called Thinker Toys, and I think there are several other books and things and resources that have came out of
Yeah.
that book. But I really enjoy that.
Yeah, somebody also mentioned, yeah, and that's a great book, man. I'm going to have to get that one. You can maybe send it to me for my birthday. That would be great. Someone said Steven Spangler Science has good stuff. Yeah, Steven Spangler Science, really great stuff. For those of us that are older, he's just a newer version of Mr. Wizard, which is really great. But it's really kind of funny because every time I think I come out with something kind of cool and it hasn't been done, then Steven Spangler has it on his website. So that's the other thing, guys, is that, that verse in Ecclesiastes where it says nothing is new, everything's been done, and that is so true. I have a do-it-yourself version of my Vortex cannon, which is a big smoke cannon that shoots smoke rings or whatever. The design is my design, but I'm sure somebody else has done it, so whatever. But I do teach you how to do that on YouTube. But Steven Spangler, after I found this and thought it was a really cool idea, then Steven Spangler came out with it on his website, and then just a couple months ago, and that was like 5 years ago, GJ, that I started doing that. But then I came across a video just a few months ago of Bill Nye doing that same exact thing in the late 80s. So, it's all been around. It's all been around. So.
Yeah, that is definitely some important thoughts to remember when it comes to creative ideas and stuff. Is that it's all been around, and typically a good Google search can help generate a lot of ideas as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This question, kind of a really specific question. All right, it says, seems like a lot of things I buy as far as tricks and gimmicks, I can only use one time. Do you have any suggestions for being able to use things more often, like more than a one-hit wonder kind of thing?
Yeah. See, that's the problem with illusions. It's kind of a two-edged sword. It works really great, and then it doesn't. See, I was running into that when I was a children's pastor. You spend $50 on something, and you can only use it like once every 2 years. Because remember, the advantage I have now is that whatever I use, I could use it on a weekly basis, over and over and over again to a fresh new group of things. So that's why I really try to encourage people don't lock yourself in to one genre of teaching illustration. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't just do illusions because eventually you're going to run out. Don't just do balloons because eventually, you're going to run out. Don't just do science. It's like do a mix of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I totally understand that question, but I don't know that there's really a way around that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because once you've done something, you can only do it once or twice or whatever. So,
Well, I think this question kind of tags onto that. How do you keep the lessons that you teach over and over fresh and new and exciting?
Yeah. Well, for me, that's a big thing because, like, this summer, I had 11 summer camps where I was camp pastor at. So for 3 months, I did something different this year in that I did the same exact messages at every camp I did. In the past, what I've done is I've tried to, mix it up a little bit. But when I'm doing 11 camps, 2-a-days, I don't even know how many messages that is when you think about it. What is that? 8 messages times, let's say 9, 10. That's like 80 times I spoke or more. So, the more and more you do it, I think the more comfortable I get with it. But I don't know. It's not hard for me to keep it fresh and exciting because there's that comfort level for me personally, and I'm the type of person that I'm incapable of having the same conversation twice. It drives my wife nuts sometimes because I'll have a conversation with somebody and then I try to repeat it to somebody else and she's like, that's not what you said. And I'm like, well, it sort of is, but it's not. I'm not lying. It's just that I'm incapable of repeating exactly word for word. And so I don't know. I just try to keep it fresh, and I don't. I've always wanted to, for the sake of I don't know documentation, write down all my messages word for word, but I never have. I mean, I have a general idea and a general outline, but for me, keeping it new over and over again, I try not to focus on how I feel about it, realizing that it's going to be fresh and new for whoever I'm doing it for. So.
Right. Somebody wants to see you set your beard on fire.
Do what now?
It says, how about setting your beard on fire?
I've done that before, actually. Actually, technically, years ago when I first started doing fire eating and stuff, I had a small goatee, just like a little baby goatee right here. And I did fire eating where I would light one tongue on fire, and my tongue would be on fire, and then I'd light the other torch off of it. Well, what happened was that I pushed too hard on my tongue, and it went down, and right where my beard would have been, everything was on fire, and so I had to snuff it out and stuff. So I have not lit this thing on fire yet. Thank goodness. I've been very blessed, but I'm sure that when it does happen, people will love it. So,
yeah, I think if that happened to me, I'd probably put an end to the fire object lessons for a while.
yes, remember that polyester and facial hair is extremely flammable.
Now, I think a question says, what are some resources for cool experiments for object lessons, books, websites? I think we've already talked about a few of those. Do you know of any books or anything else for experiment type of object lessons?
Yes. Let me think. Let me look it up real quick. One of the ladies from Kids Matter magazine, as a matter of fact, I have not seen it personally, but she has one out there. Let me see if I can find it. But her name is Tina Hauser, I believe. Look up. Let's see if I can find her name. I know she's written a book about it. Tina Hauser, and that's Tina Tina Hauser Houser. So Tina Hauser, she has a book on it. Like I said, in my opinion, right now, Josh Denhart at sciencevbs.com, that dude knows his stuff. I think he's got a master's degree in chemistry, if I'm not mistaken. And he
Is this
pretty
the book
much
you
has
were referring to, Beakers, Bubbles, and the Bible? Tina
that.
Hauser?
Yes. Did you find it?
Yeah, Beakers, Bubbles, and the Bible. It says Bible Lessons from the Science Lab.
Mm-hmm. But guys, and again, let me say this. Illusions and balloons and setting things on fire and science experiments and all these things are really great. But, don't forget just about the other things that are out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are really great, but if you have, for instance, I live in the country. I live out here. I have access to cows and horses and animals and that sort of thing. I mean, if you could bring a live chicken, into your Sunday school room, that's a pretty amazing thing. Don't underestimate bringing a cat. Now, I'm not. Well, maybe I should put a disclaimer out there, GJ. You want to check with the Building and Grounds Committee at your church. But
You also might want to put a tarp down.
yeah, but I'm saying, like, okay, how about a parakeet or a hamster or a snake even? I don't know. But I know this sounds really silly and stuff like that, but like especially like felt boards and chalk. And I know this sounds really like old school, but it is. But these kids have never seen that kind of stuff before. So, and listen, I love illusions, I love balloons, I love science and all this other stuff, but don't just pigeonhole yourself in those things. You know what I'm saying? Whatever helps you make the point and that you can build a lesson around, do it. I mean, I found out the other day that my brother-in-law's, one of his best friends, has a brand new Lamborghini. Like a real Lamborghini. I'm not talking like a kit car or whatever. And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out ways that I could use that Lamborghini, say, in a video that I'm going to be, producing, or, at least a way I could get a ride in it. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean,
Exactly.
how cool would that be? So, use what you got. The best example of that, I had a guy call me a couple years ago who had a monster truck, a real live monster truck that could crush cars. And he had a ministry where he would go to churches and set up, and they would pull a car out and he would smash it. And so I was like, man, I don't know how long he's going to be able to do this, but I did a winter camp, and so we did this camp called Ginormous, and it was all built around his monster truck. You know what I'm saying? So that was not magical, but it was. I mean, you bring out a monster truck, man, people are going to show up. So fine, just use whatever you have that's unique, and if you're excited about it, people are going to love it, But again, don't just rely. I mean, these books and stuff are great. I think all these books that we've recommended are fantastic, but don't let that be your crutch and say, well, I don't have a lesson because I can't get that book right now, or they're sold out. I'm sure half of you have already gone on to Amazon during this conversation and bought Thinker Toys, but use your creativity. Yeah. See, look, Tom says, I love walking through dollar stores and find weird objects to teach with. Absolutely, that is so great. I did a chapel for a group of high schoolers this Wednesday, and I decided I took my original Game Boy, a Walkman, cassette player with a Tiffany cassette. I took my original cell phone, my very first cell phone from 2000, all right, had the retractable antenna. I took my old school Polaroid camera, and the whole point of the lesson is that just because something's old or outdated doesn't mean that it's still not good or not useful. And I use all of these on a daily basis because I was telling DJ earlier, I discovered today by Urban Dictionary, I am a hipster, I guess, apparently. I was not aware of this. But every time I pulled one of these old objects out of my bag, the kids, these are high schoolers, guys. High schoolers are like, whoa! I mean, it was like crazy. And it actually spoke more to me because I'm like, I didn't do a magic trick. I didn't light anything on fire. I didn't do a balloon. All I did was show these kids my first cell phone, a Walkman, my original Game Boy, and a Polaroid camera, and they were still talking about it after I left. So whatever you have around the house. I didn't have to buy any of that. It was literally sitting over on my desk. So,
I was reading through here. I think we got a couple of more questions. Are there any specific YouTube channels that you recommend, or you just do searches on there, or what?
I do. Oh gosh, what is the name of that one? Of course you would ask me this. I don't want to try to open up another window because I'm afraid I'm going to mess something up here. Here, maybe I can use my phone. There is a I'll find it here in a second. There's some guys that are kind of behind the scenes on Mythbusters, and they have some stuff. Let me see if I can pull that up. Look at the on the homepage of YouTube. Always find out like what's trending, like what's popular. Make MAKE is one that I follow. They've got some really great like projects and stuff you can do on there. Tested is the one I'm talking about. These are kind of they do like behind the scenes videos for Mythbusters. And man, Mythbusters guys, I mean they do really great stuff. I follow so many random things here. Wilderness Outfitters. This is a guy who he's like kind of like a cross between a hermit, a terrorist, and MacGyver. He can make anything in the wild. So be careful with that one. Yeah, those are just some of the ones that I like. I have so many things, guys, that I just try to keep my eyes open, and just see what's around me. That's really, I think, the most important thing to do is to keep your eyes open and just use what you got. Use what you got. I guarantee you guys got closets in your church building that have got stuff from 60 years ago that people have forgotten about, and you could use it this Sunday.
Very true. I've got, let's see, another question or two. I think we got time for one or two more. How do you deal with unruly kids when you are speaking?
That's a really good question. I picked this up years and years ago from a book on how to do birthday parties for kids, and it works. I will sometimes try this if I have the opportunity, and if it doesn't work, then I go to Plan B. But that is, an unruly kid is being unruly and they're acting out because they want attention. So sometimes if I find that kid, I'll bring them up, let them help me up in front because, number one, they're doing it for attention, so you're getting that out of their system and you're letting them help, Now, I don't try to reinforce that by behavior, you know what I'm saying, because you don't want them acting up all the time. Otherwise, you really got to, then you're going to start to have a problem on your hands. But I just tell kids this. I'm like, my theory on unruly kids in children's ministry is they don't have to be there. I will definitely pull out the mom card, and I did it a couple weeks ago. I'll be like, hey, we don't have to be here. If y'all don't want to be in children's church, y'all can go sit down with your parents. And then it became very solemn and quiet. And and that's the truth. I mean, if they don't have to be there, But I think that's every situation is different. I always want to, number one is make sure you have enough volunteers that are able to sit with your kids and kind of help you keep the kids maintained. And if you can't do that, I highly recommend German Shepherds and Border Collies. I've placed strategically throughout the room, and that definitely kind of helps keep the, at least the getting up and running around. They'll put them right back in their seats. So.
Exactly. Well, let's see. We've got time for one more question. What do you do when you are in a creative rut?
Okay, this is really good because these are actually two things on my notes that I didn't really get to. And that is when I get to a creative rut, probably the number one best thing I can do is exercise. I know that sounds stupid, and you're like, I'm not going to exercise. And look, you can look at me. I don't know if you can tell. I'm not a huge, physique of fitness here. But there have been a lot of scientific studies to prove that exercise releases endorphins in your body, and it gets the blood flowing. So seriously, when I'm in a creative rut, I exercise. I'll go for a walk or a run, a couple push-ups, get to going. The number two thing I'll do is I'll drink coffee. I'm a big fan of coffee, but I've just noticed that my body chemistry, whenever I've had coffee, really works. And then the third thing, this is really what I do, guys: exercise, coffee, and a nap. The 15-minute nap has worked wonders for me because sometimes I'm just tired and I can't do it. So what I'll do is I'll do just a 15 to 20-minute nap where I lay down, turn off my phone, don't get any disruptions, and somehow that works. So,
is there like a specific time of day that you feel like you're more creative?
yeah, probably I don't know about time of day. I think usually in the morning time, I'm more trying to wake up and trying to figure out what's going on. I think usually in the afternoon and probably late evening, my brain is usually cranking. But probably the number one most creative time I've noticed is when I'm driving, because I drive a lot. And I think the reason that I'm much more creative when I'm driving, it's because I'm focused on driving. And you're not supposed to use these things while you're driving, okay? So I don't. There's just something about that windshield time when I'm sitting there with the steering wheel staring out the windshield. I get some really creative ideas for that. And when I do get those creative ideas, I'll make a voice memo, without, trying to write things down or whatever. Siri can take really great voice memos and that sort of thing, or write those down whenever you stop. But I know, for me, usually afternoon, evening is good, and windshield time is really great. And when I'm on an airplane, I think there's something to say about, sitting in a small space, confined, where you can't move, that forces you to think about it. So.
Well, our time is kind of wrapping up. Is there any last things you'd like to say to everyone?
Hey guys, this was a blast. I don't know about you guys, but I had a lot of fun doing this. This was really cool, and I hope we get to do it again. And you guys are awesome. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get a hold of me on, Facebook, message me or whatever, or my website. My email is keith@keithcoast.com. That's my personal, so you can reach me there. But if I don't get to you right away, it's not because I don't love you. It's just because I got something else going on. But yeah, just you guys hang in there. Remember that you're creative. Just don't believe that lie that you're not creative, and be creative. And I look forward to hearing all the creative things that you guys are coming up with. So. Just keep it safe.
Well, thanks, Keith, for your time today. Thank you guys for joining us for our webinar at childrensministryblog.com. Once again, if you have any questions or any comments or anything, feel free. You can shoot those to Keith Coast at his website or his email. Also, through the contact form on childrensministryblog.com, you can reach me. Appreciate you guys. Thanks again, Keith, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.